Okay, we're moving on to the final step now. But before we do so, let's just briefly recap what we've learned so far. In the first step of the solving process, you learned about the importance of always simplifying questions to the greatest extent possible. Then, after simplifying, I taught you how it's crucial to attempt to make a solid rough answer that addresses your simplified question. Most recently, we learned about the importance of not looking for the correct answer choice, but rather looking for faults in 3 of the answer choices. These faults could be related to contradicting the rough answer, contradicting what is literally said in the passage, adding information that isn't in the passage, or not actually answering the simplified question. So now how do we change our least incorrect answer, the answer choice with the fewest faults in it, into the correct answer? It's actually very simple, and it's something you need to always remember. Here it is. Every correct answer choice in the SAT must have literal evidence to support it from the passage. Let me just repeat that because it's so important. Every answer in the SAT must have literal evidence from the passage to support it. Now, what is evidence? Evidence for a correct answer will be simply a paraphrase of a part of the passage that matches the correct answer choice with nothing added or taken away. Now, you may be wondering why we don't just automatically skip to this step 3. Why do we bother eliminating answer choices? Why can't we just immediately move to looking for evidence? Well, it all comes back to what I mentioned previously. The College Board is really good at creating clever distractor answer choices. And so to avoid this pitfall, you need to eliminate first and then find the evidence to support your correct answer. For whatever reason, our brains are more objective when we are looking for incorrect information rather than so-called quote-unquote correct information. This is why we always eliminate first before finding the evidence to support our least incorrect answer. In reality though, honestly, the process does work together. And I'm sure you noticed that fact when I was doing my eliminations in the prior video. When I found something in an answer choice that mirrored stuff in my rough answer or the passage, I would kind of acknowledge that and put that answer choice to the side, consider it a maybe, before moving on to find faults with the other answer choices. The key is to remember to always eliminate first and then look for evidence second. If you keep that mindset of first eliminating, second looking for evidence, that's the way you should be doing things. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's see this in action. So to do that, we're going to be returning to College Board release test number 1, passage 1. So please pause the video here and open that up. Okay, welcome back. So here you can see a list of all the correct answers from passage 1. What I want you to get out of this document is that there is always evidence from the passage to support all parts of a correct answer choice. There is never any part of a correct answer choice that lacks support from the passage. Let's review each of the answers. So the first one character receives a surprising request from another character. In line 14, Chia says, "Who is it at this hour?" That means it's a surprise. She didn't know he was coming. And then you can see in line 59, he says, "I've come to ask for Naomi's hand." That's his request. He's asking if he can marry her. And then he also mentions, after asking all these questions, he says, "I see I've startled you. I see I've surprised you." So you can see how this mirrors or paraphrases the correct answer. One character being chair, receives a surprising request, the surprising request being for the marriage, from another character, which is Akira. Perfectly reflected, and I can point to explicit evidence in the text to support this. Okay. 2b, a detailed depiction of a meaningful encounter. So the entire encounter is described in a very detailed way. You know, there's lots of details about what was said, what was felt, expressions, gestures. And of course, as I mentioned here, what can be more meaningful than a man taking a major risk and breaking tradition to ask his potential future mother-in-law if he can marry her daughter? Extremely meaningful. 3c, without mediation. So if you remember, we spent a lot of time on this one and discussed how mediation is having sort of a middleman, an intermediary, and he hadn't done that. He went and did it face to face. I went into a lot of detail in that one, so I don't think I'm going to talk about this one. Question 5c, please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal. Candidacy is obviously, he's a candidate to be married to Chia's daughter, to Naomi. Unseemliness is inappropriateness, and the proposal is, you know, his marriage proposal. So you can see again, it's perfectly reflected by what has happened in the text. Number 6 is about how does Akira address Chia? And the correct answer is respect, but not utter deference. And it says here in 71 to 76, eager to make his point, he had been looking her full in the face, and then ... you can read the rest. Until then, good night. So while on the one hand, he's extremely polite in terms of the way he is, he's very respectful. At the same time, he's also very confident, and he says, I see I've shocked you, so, give it some time, think it over, and then I'll come back. So he's not completely deferring to whatever she says. He's also, in a way, taking control of the situation. Number 7, analyze a reaction. This goes back to all the questions in that first paragraph, but the key is the final line, which here have been more receptive. So the reaction which is being analyzed is her lack of receptivity, her lack of kind of enthusiasm for his proposal. Okay, he's trying to understand it, and he thinks, well, maybe could it have been because I didn't approach a go-between that I broke tradition? Okay, 8b is very simple. The correct answer is custom, and it said breaking all tradition, and then following that, remember it said had he followed form, right? So form is the same thing as tradition, so not a problem. 9c, the reason his meeting with Chia is urgent is because he's been offered an attractive job in another country. And you can see here in my evidence from 10, I've received word of a position. Sorry, there's a typo there. I have an opportunity to go to America, to another country. Again, it's perfectly reflected in the text, the correct answer. Okay, what I hope you see here is that the correct answer choice mirrors information from the passage perfectly, with nothing added or taken away. Once you begin to really understand this point, you come to realize that the reading section of the SAT is truly an open book exam. The answers are right in front of you. So to sum up, the final step in the solving process is to ensure you have evidence. All correct answers in the SAT will be completely supported by the passage. If you cannot find literal evidence from the passage to support your least incorrect answer, this is a good sign that perhaps you've made an error somewhere in the solving process, and you should go back and double check things. So how should you move forward from here? Well, I suggest you practice finding evidence for all of the least incorrect answers you find while doing your eliminations previously, just like I did here. Go back into the passage, underline the portion which reflects whatever your least incorrect answer is saying. Once you have done this, you can check if you did indeed choose the correct answer by looking at the answer keys that I've attached in the sidebar. If you find you've made any errors, go back and see where in the solving process you've made a mistake. Did you simplify the question correctly? Did you make a very good rough answer, or did you make a mistake in that process? Was there a problem with your elimination? Were you too open in your elimination? Was there a word that you didn't understand? And then finally, were you looking for the right evidence? Did the evidence correctly reflect what the answer choice said? Okay, so there is the entire solving process, from simplifying the question to making a rough answer to eliminating and looking for evidence. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more in the last video, but all the hard work is done. I'll see you then.